Hey y'all, thank y'all for showing interest in the video. If you like it, please like and subscribe. Have a great rest of the day. Hello y'all, this is me just checking in here at Loray Mill in good old Gastonia, North Carolina. This mill right here was actually established in 1902 and they had shut down around 1993, I'd like to say. Some interesting things is this is actually a historical kind of a feature in good old North Carolina here in Gastonia area. It's kind of a landmark, I guess. It's like you mention Loray Mill here, and it's like, oh gosh, that is a pretty darn cool place. Like we all know where it is. It's like, yeah, great, right there. Oh yeah, Loray Mill. Okay, but one of the cool things about it is that it is a landmark. It stands out in the area, and there was actually a village here, kind of like a little, well, Loray Mill village and stuff, and they had a pool here, and everything was pretty much conveniently located within the general area, you know. So they had a post office, a bank or whatever, and you know, and a little grocery store for all the cool things in the general area. So everything was within walking distance, interestingly enough. And pretty much life really did revolve around the mill, interestingly enough. You know, and you know, obviously there were various owners, and you know, this mill is definitely surrounded by a lot of controversy. You know, like the Loray Mill Strike of 1929, where it left about, I'd like to say, unfortunately, it left 2 people dead, to my understanding. And it was a textile mill originally, to where I forgot the name of the exact term, but it was like the stretch payment, where they stretched out the payments that they charged people at one point, and just left, you know, them in a lot of financial troubles and stuff. And and the point of the strike was they were fighting for a fair wage of like 15-20 bucks. I think it was like 20 bucks. And this was the one of 1929. And it was it just caused a bunch of issues and stuff, and they were fighting for a 40-hour work week and all, and just a whole bunch of trouble. Now in 1935, it was actually bought by Firestone Incorporated or whatever. So that's another interesting fact of the mill. Well, let's go look at some other little cool things, and then we'll go inside and we'll go look at the inside, and I'll let you know. Okay, let's go walk inside. So this is the interior. That's the downstairs area. As you can see, this mill is about 6 stories tall, or 6 stories high. Not too bad. Now, back in its heyday, you can only imagine all the fascinating things here. This is part of the inside right here. Just imagine there being a bunch of looms all lined up here and all that sorts. A big factory. There were child workers here, and a lot of women that worked here, and all that sort. And one cool thing about this place is that there's actually a museum, a very, very small museum here that's run by the Gaston County Museum. Some of the hours here and stuff. It's like run on like Tuesday and Friday. Unfortunately, they're closed today, but I'm not too worried. You might have to pause to kind of get more details on some of these pictures here. But let's see what we can find out. Well, let's look on for the next part. Interesting fact is that in the decades from 1870, 1880s, the 1890s, the general area, the general South started to industrialize, and the people, local entrepreneurs and northern investors started to actually build a thriving textile industry, interestingly enough, centered in the Piedmont area, which is the general area of where Gastonia is. And what's so crazy, it was also fostered by the railroad expansion and fueled by steam-powered machinery, cotton mills, and drove the region's economy. So by the 1920s, the southern Piedmont area surpassed New England as the world's leading producer of cotton cloth. Now, Gaston County became a center for the southern textile industry. And by the 1920s, I'd like to say, it had about 90 operating mills and produced about 80% of the nation's combined yarn. And by the 1920s, according to my notes, the Gaston County had about the highest number of cotton mills in the nation. Most of them actually in Gastonia and in the general area, and what's so cool about Gastonia, about this area, about the Loray Mill, is that it kind of gave the area a nickname of Spindle City. And an interesting part is that when it was known as the Firestone plant, which is where they made the cloth for the tires and stuff, it was actually one of the largest single mills for it, and it required a lot of people with a lot of knowledge on the particular thing, the particular subject. Although there was some renovation, there are some parts of the mill that are still original. One thing that Loray Mill was known for, as far as the designs go, was that in trying to avoid using the word world-renowned, but it was also known for some of the things like it being, having some of the features of the building be like fire suppressant and all that sorts, as that was some of the dangers involved. So that's the cool part. And interestingly enough, they do have some events here as part of the reconstruction or the remodeling that they've done and stuff, which I find very fascinating in my modest opinion. Now, as I mentioned, there are several levels. There's about 6 floors in this mill here. And I'm not trying to advertise this though, but they do have apartments in here that they obviously lease out and stuff. So an interesting point about this mill is that about 80% of it is actually still original. Obviously, that 20% is obviously from when they did some remodeling and updating and all that sorts. But an interesting fact about this, some of this wood, is that it's actually, the wood was actually shipped in by train, and I have estimates, or I've been told the estimates are, is that it's about at least 150 years old, and it's not even warped. So it's like crazy. Interesting is that these are actually original to the building for steam, and pretty darn fascinating that they're still here, as you all can see. This is the back side of the mill. And got another cool little thing up here too. And what's so cool is that they also had a pool here as well. Because you got to remember that there was also technically, it was, well, they called it a village per se, as they had a bunch of, they had houses here, and a grocery store within, and a bank and stuff, all within walking distance. Something to kind of also remind y'all too is that previous to 1919, this was a cotton mill, but from 1919 to 1993, it then turned into a tire fabric mill, as they call it. Which is pretty cool. Well, that's it for Loray Mill. Hope you all enjoyed.